that we have some really high demand Joe Louis Greenway Partnership shirts, and we will make sure that everyone gets one. All right. Well, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liana Medley, and as always, when we start one of these events in Detroit, I like to start it off this way. If you love Detroit, if you really love Detroit in your soul, say what up, though. Thank you, everybody, so much. So we are here for an amazing event to celebrate neighborhood storytelling. And as we kick this off and when we think about neighborhood stories and all of our legacy here in the city of Detroit, when I think about my family and the generations of my family that have been right here in this city, it really prompted me to think about, how do we start this as a collective? How do we start this and really ground this experience in something that brings us all together? And so I'm going to ask, not only for the what up, though, that you all just repeat after me. And so our chant today, and this is a chant for our life, for us as Detroiters, to ensure that we always are claiming our stories, whether in a big ribbon cutting, whether we are telling stories at the barbecue, whether we are passing these stories down to our children, our grandchildren. I want you to repeat after me. I want you to say, our stories, our pride, together we rise. Thank you so much for just sharing that moment of collective engagement, so we can understand that as we talk about neighborhood storytellings, and yes, we are here on the Joe Louis Greenway, but we share stories every single solitary day. When I had an opportunity to drive my son to my childhood neighborhood so he can see where I grew up on 7 Mile and Prevost, and he can understand what life was like, and I took him to our family neighborhood in Palmer Woods and showed him how his grandfather was a real estate developer in the 50s and the 60s and had this home that was our family home, and took him around to the various different neighborhoods that we have lived and our family has lived throughout this city over generations. Neighborhood storytellings are really our story. They are really our pride in the city of Detroit. So I want to welcome you all to the Warren Gateway. Isn't it beautiful? Like, take a look around, okay? Is this not a beautiful, amazing, wonderful park to have in our city, right here in the neighborhood? Again, I want to tell you, my name is Liana Medley. I am the executive director of the Joe Louis Greenway Partnership, and I'm thrilled to have you all here to celebrate the ribbon cutting as we unveil the Neighborhood Stories Project. The Joe Louis Greenway Partnership is a nonprofit organization. We are devoted to the communities, to the residents, the people here in Detroit and Highland Park and Hamtramck and Dearborn that are connected by the Joe Louis Greenway. We are here to serve these communities to ensure that the Joe Louis Greenway is a space that honors our legacy, that celebrates the strength and resilience of our community, that is programmed in a way that is free, that is inviting, that is engaging, and the way that you want to see it programmed. We are committed to the ongoing beautification in partnership with the city of Detroit and intentional community engagement. So this project today is a celebration of the rich history and the vibrant spirit of our neighborhoods. And if you are from Detroit, if you live in Detroit, that rich history is something that you experience every day. It honors our past, it embraces our present, where we are right now, and our inspiring future as we sit here on a path that is being built. We are sitting here on a project that is literally about the past, the present, and the future. I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to acknowledge the many hidden figures in this city. Those of us who live our legacy and our stories every day. And while this project is wonderful and amazing, and it celebrates a lot of those stories about our neighborhood and this neighborhood, many of those stories go untold. They aren't presented on a neighborhood storytelling project and a ribbon cutting. But those stories are valuable. Those stories are what help when people move into our neighborhoods and they become a part of our community. They understand the roots. They understand why we stay. They understand what we are fighting for in our city. Those stories are stories that are passed every single solitary day, and we should continue to share those stories. I want to go and give a huge thanks to the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, whose $45,000 grant from the Ralph C. Williams Jr. Legacy Fund made this possible. I just want to give applause. Having partners and funders like the Community Foundation of Southeastern Michigan and Ralph C. Wilson Jr. really make projects like this possible and ensure that we have the funds and the resources to tell stories and to have amazing storytelling projects like this in our neighborhood. I also want to recognize our story gatherers, LaMonda Matthews, Carolyn Pruitt, Alicia Brown, and Karen Walker. Yes. I would like you all, if you are here, please stand and be recognized. I see Alicia. If you are one of our storytellers, our gatherers. So just so you really understand how this project was rooted in community, right? This is not a City of Detroit exercise where the government or some other nonprofit went out and said, we're just going to go door to door. This story was about how do we reconnect neighbors and how do neighbors collect the stories of their neighbors? How do you go to the person who's down the street and knock on the door and introduce yourself? Maybe you don't know them and say, this is the project we're working on. And we want you to be a part of it. We want you to tell us about what you remember about our neighborhood. We want you to tell us about how you see our neighborhood today and how you envision it in the future. So to bring on residents as the story gatherers in partnership with the Detroit Historical Society to teach them tools and to give them the resources to go out to ensure that they were able to do this. And I just want to point out, this is one project. Storytelling does not end. It is a continual journey. So because you see this today and this ribbon cutting today, the storytelling will go on. So just so you know, their work, it transformed into 10 themes, as you will see on our signage around the Joe Louis Greenway. The signage was designed by Good Daily Dunn in English, Spanish, and Arabic. And when we talk about these neighborhoods, that is a very vital component to ensure that public space is accessible for everyone. So also, I want to give a big thank you to the Greenway Heritage Conservancy, again, and the Detroit Historical Society for their support. Their efforts help to preserve and celebrate these unique stories of our neighborhoods. So, without further delay, all right, if you have not heard him speak, you are in for a delight. My first time hearing Jamon Jordan was pre-pandemic at COACT, and I was mesmerized and have continued to be mesmerized since then. He is the guardian of our history. He's the City of Detroit historian, and he's here to share some insights into our community's history and the importance of projects like this. Please welcome Jamon Jordan.
Good afternoon. What up, though? All right, it's good to see everybody here today, and I just want to talk a little bit about this history, and that's all I can do is a little bit because there's always more history than there is time to tell it. So let me go ahead and get started. The Midwest-Tireman neighborhood, which is largely the neighborhood that was known by the 1940s as the Old West Side, was, of course, a historic neighborhood, and it still is a historic neighborhood. Like Paradise Valley, Sugar Hill, the North End, Conant Gardens, the 12th Dexter Linwood neighborhood, all of those neighborhoods are children of an earlier neighborhood, Black Bottom. Acre for acre, Black Bottom is the most historically significant and culturally rich area in the whole state of Michigan's history. Joe Louis, and this is the Joe Louis Greenway, he grew up in Black Bottom. And Black Bottom is the parent of all of the historic black neighborhoods in Detroit and many of the non-black neighborhoods too. And Black Bottom is most definitely the parent of this neighborhood. The Old West Side, which is what it was called by the 1940s, is one of the most historic residential neighborhoods for black people in the city of Detroit. And at this neighborhood, as just was said, the panels are in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Arabic, because many people from all over the world began coming to the city of Detroit, many of which were coming to this neighborhood or very close to this neighborhood. That's just how Black Bottom started. It was a immigrant neighborhood, but also people from down south were coming to that neighborhood. And so this is a child of an earlier neighborhood doing much of the same things that earlier neighborhood did. Black people have been living in the Lower East Side, Black Bottom, since the 1700s. But by the 1930s, a growing community of working and middle-class African Americans had established institutions, first churches, and were residents of the neighborhood known as the Old West Side. That neighborhood's historic boundaries were Grand River on the east, Buchanan on the south, Tireman on the north, and Epworth on the west. Today, the borders of the Midwest-Tireman neighborhood encompasses that, but it's larger. It's Oakman, Roselawn, West Warren, and the I-94 and 96 freeways. But until 1900, the residents in this area were mainly Polish and German immigrants and their descendants. About a fifth of those Polish and German immigrants were also Jewish. In 1914, Henry Ford offered $5 a day to all starting workers. This would bring thousands of people from all over the world to Detroit for those well-paying jobs. And a lot of those people are from down south, and they're African American. This neighborhood is historic. African Americans had a small but significant presence in this area by the 1920s, but by the 1930s, they were a major presence. And by the 1940s, they were approaching the majority. The major job opportunities on or near this neighborhood were Ford Motor Company, the Rouge Factory right in Dearborn, the Kelsey Hayes Factory, and other auto suppliers and manufacturing plants in the area, the Lincoln plant on Livernois and Warren, the Michigan Central Railroad, and the United States Post Office. In 1917, the assistant pastor at Second Baptist Church, Edgar Wendell Edwards, which Second Baptist Church by this time is located in Greektown, which was a part of Black Bottom, he joined a group of members to found the church in the Old West Side. The church was named the International, Interracial, Interdenominational, Institutional Baptist Church, the 4 I's. It's the first black church on the West Side. In 1921, under the second pastor, Charles Hill, they built a new building. It opened, and the church was renamed Hartford Avenue Baptist Church. Pastor Charles Hill made the church a home for social justice. He brought W.B. Du Bois, Paul Robeson, A. Philip Randolph into the church to speak, to organize, and he was highly involved himself in civil rights and labor organizing. This neighborhood is historic. St. Stephen's AME is the child of Bethel AME. Bethel AME is the second oldest black church in Detroit, and it's the first AME church in Michigan. In 1918, this group, St. Stephen's, which breaks off of Bethel, organizes, and they become the first congregation for an AME church on the West Side. And so they're the first AME church on the West Side, the second black church in the Old West Side. St. Stephen's had an auditorium that was used for many public events. They also opened their space for new black churches that did not yet have worship spaces on the West Side. Again, this neighborhood is historic. St. Cyprian's Episcopal Church is the child of St. Matthew's Episcopal Church, and it was founded largely due to the pressure and lobbying of one black woman, Miss Nellie Warren. I want you to understand something. When black people have made progress, whether starting churches, starting schools, starting businesses, the Underground Railroad, the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power Movement, politics, whenever African Americans have made progress, black women have been at the forefront of that progress. Nellie Warren was a member of St. Matthew's Episcopal Church, which was then located in Paradise Valley on the east side. But she lived on the Old West Side. She had a son who needed a wheelchair, which made it difficult for her to travel with him from the Old West Side all the way to the east side in Paradise Valley, basically where Ford Field parking deck is today. She pressed Father Bagnall to establish a Sunday school in the home of a married couple in the neighborhood on 30th Street. But eventually that home was not adequate for the group because it became too large. St. James Episcopal Church, which is a white Episcopal church on Warren and 28th, initially agreed to allow Nellie Warren and the black Episcopalians on the west side to use their basement for Sunday school. But many of the St. James members protested against this, and the offer was withdrawn. Another white Episcopal church, St. Thomas, founded in 1883, was located a few miles from St. James in southwest Detroit at the corner of Shady Lane and West Grand Boulevard. That church at one point had black members, but as the black population grew, they began to not allow African Americans to join the church. St. Cyprian Sunday School Mission began renting space from homes and buildings in the Old West Side. In 1918, land was purchased at the corner of 28th and Milford to build what would be St. Cyprian's Episcopal Church. In 1919, the first St. Cyprian's Church was built. In 1936, Malcolm Dade became the head of St. Cyprian's. Under his leadership, the church grew from 100 members to 500 members. He would hire Lancelot Sucurt as the architect, and a new church was built in 1938. The Episcopal Diocese of Michigan closed that church 3 years ago in September 2021. But again, this neighborhood is still historic. Tabernacle Baptist Church originated in Black Bottom on Monroe and Du Bois Street in 1920. Members of Hartford Avenue Baptist Church, the only black Baptist church on the west side, were split over the installation of the church's second pastor, Charles Hill. Hartford members who wanted to leave pleaded with Tabernacle to move from Black Bottom to the Old West Side. Tabernacle joined the group of black churches that were creating a black community on the west side. When they were blocked from building by white residents, they shared St. Stephen's. But their first church in the area was located on Woodrow and Cobb. This neighborhood is historic. The Church of God in Christ will have their first Detroit house of worship at Erskine and St. Antoine. The Brewster homes will be built in that area. Then there were Kojic, that's what we say about Church of God in Christ. For those that don't know, we say Kojic, all right? There were Kojic churches in Black Bottom and Paradise Valley. On July 4th, 1926, Pastor John Seth Bailey founded the McKinley Avenue Church of God in Christ in a tent. They built the brick church there 2 years later. In 1958, the church was renamed Bailey Temple Church of God in Christ. This neighborhood is historic. In 1922, Raymond Menard and Julian Archer founded the Nakarama Club as a place for well-to-do black men to relax and network. The club was patterned after the established white clubs in the city, such as the Detroit Athletic Club and the Detroit Club. The name of the club is American, spelled backwards, and is meant as a reminder that African Americans are Americans too, and should be treated as such. The club was officially incorporated in 1932 with 21 charter members, including doctors, lawyers, teachers, postal workers, and factory workers. Edgar Houston served as the first president. There will be 5 battles in or near this neighborhood over housing when black people move onto all white residential areas here. Fleeta and Aldine Mathis moved in that neighborhood in March 1925 on Northfield Street. Dr. Alexander Turner and Leota Turner moved in June 1925 on Spokane. Vollington and Agnes Bristol moved there in July 1925 on American Street. And John and Lucy Fletcher a few days after the Bristols on Stopel. Nearly 2 decades after that, Orsel and Minnie McGee will move to 4626 Seabolt. They will be sued by their white neighbors, Benjamin and Anna Sipes, on behalf of the White Homeowners Association, the Tireman Avenue Improvement Association. And this case will reach the United States Supreme Court in 1947. Their attorney is Thurgood Marshall. In 1948, the U.S. Supreme Court will rule that racial restrictive covenants and property deeds cannot be enforced by the government, beginning the process of ending housing discrimination. In 1931, the Bluebird Inn opens on Tireman. It becomes a center for bebop jazz for decades and is now being restored by the Detroit Sound Conservancy. Give it up to Mama Jara. In 1953, the 20 Grand nightclub opens at West Warren and 14th. On the east side, the Flame Show Bar is the major club for soul, rhythm and blues, rock and roll music. When the Flame closed in 1963 due to urban renewal, Phelps Lounge on Oakland in the North End becomes the go-to spot for that same music. But on the west side, the 20 Grand is the spot. This neighborhood is historic. The main school for that old west side area is Northwestern High School. Albert Clegg Jr. Graduates from that school. He will become the founder of the Shrine of the Black Madonna. And of course, his name will change to Jaramogi Abebe Ajiman. John Conyers, the longest serving African American in Congress, graduated from Northwestern High School and lived here in the the Old West Side. Willie Horton, legendary baseball hitter for the Detroit Tigers. James Jamerson, legendary bass player for the Funk Brothers at Motown. Esther Gordy Edwards, vice president of Motown Records and founder of the Motown Museum. Casey Kasem, legendary radio DJ and music countdown host. Damon Keith, legendary civil rights attorney who went on to become a federal judge. Ray Parker Jr., bassist, one of the pioneers of funk who went on to become a major pop music star. Willis Ward, probably the greatest athlete in his era. Track and field, football, even beating Jesse Owens in a 100-yard dash. Mary Wells, the first solo female star at Motown Records. Y'all remember my guy. Pearl Clegg, the award-winning playwright and daughter of Reverend Albert Clegg. This neighborhood is historic. In 1965, I'm almost done, I see you. In 1965, Dr. Charles H. Wright founds the International Afro-American Museum in his row house on the corner of West Warren and Grand Boulevard. It will become the largest museum devoted to black history on the planet in 1997 when it becomes the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. This neighborhood is historic. By 1940, my grandmother arrives in this neighborhood. This is where she moved from Alabama, from Bessemer, Alabama. This is her first landing spot in the city of Detroit. At that time, about 10% of the black bottom residents were homeowners. But here in this neighborhood, 40% of black residents are homeowners. By the time of the destruction of Black Bottom, which began in 1950, nearly 20% of the residents in Black Bottom are homeowners. But at the same time, in this neighborhood on the Old West Side, nearly 50% of the black residents are homeowners. The black residents on the Old West Side between 1920 and 1950 were generally more economically prosperous than those in Black Bottom. Tabernacle Baptist Church, St. Stephen's, Vicky's Barbecue, the McGee House, the Bluebird Inn, the Love Building, Northwestern High School, and this spot, the Joe Louis Greenway, pays tribute to the legacy that this neighborhood is historic, because this neighborhood is still historic. Thank you.
Look, okay, I told y'all, if you didn't believe me, I told you that you were in for a treat, a history lesson that runs really, really deep here in this city, and an amazing storyteller and orator who is able to connect our history to today. So again, just thank you so much, Jamon. I hate to ever have to cut you off. I'm sitting over there. They're like, Leanna, wrap it up. I'm like, I'm listening too. So as we keep everything going, I want to bring up Crystal Perkins. She is the director of the City of Detroit General Services Department. Her team is doing a phenomenal job with the construction, with the engagement, all facets of anything parks and rec in our city. And specifically, as we are here today, this project in the Joe Louis Greenway. So, Crystal.
What up, though? I'll keep in the tradition of the hometown saying, because I am a hometown girl. Leanna told how she took her son to her hometown house that she grew up in. Well, I live currently around that corner on Whitcomb. So, and it's hard to come behind Jamon, but I'm here. But I'm excited to be here because I love history. And I believe that without history, we don't know where we're going, because history rewrites, history repeats itself. And we need to know where we've been to know where we're going. And so these neighborhood stories, to me, are powerful tools that can be used to convey complex history, emotions, and messages in a way that resonates with the audience on a deeper level. They provide a social and cultural knowledge to spark reflections of moral and ethical values while inspiring and motivating the audience. The fascinating aspects to me about these stories is the connection of the past to the present, and then the present to the future. So I think Leanna said, we're sitting here, but we're looking at the past behind us. We're sitting here in the present, but we also can see the future ahead of us. A very, very special shout out to the ladies that worked hard to tell these stories. The team that put the effort in to do these stories and these billboards and these plaques. But I also want to thank the JLG GSD team for carrying out the vision for this great public space that's going to be in our city. Without them, without this community, without all the visits that you guys took down to Atlanta, all the community meetings that you did here, we would not be sitting here today. We would not be sitting here to hear your stories, to hear Jaman tell us about the history of this place. And I just recently heard about the reopening of the Bluebird Inn. I think that's awesome. Hats off to you. I will be there to visit. Like literally this week, someone told me about it, not even connected with me, this project or the city. So I just want to say that in this space, we need to continue to make sure we have our history known, not just share it at events like Jaman did up here, but also have it in writing and have it in different languages so that everyone can read, understand, and know where we come from so we can know where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. So as we continue to move along, I want to bring up a partner who has been a great support to me, a great support of the Joe Louis Greenway project, Greg Yankee, who is in a new position with the Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan. I want to bring up Greg for some remarks.
Thank you. I got there was an ironic laugh when I got the run of show. I think philanthropy and foundations are often in the way of the work. And then I get the run of show and I'm actually in the way of the story gatherers. So I'm going to be brief and then I'm going to sit back down and continue listening to the incredible stories that make this project special. I think, well, now I'm just finding things wrong with the industry I work in. Philanthropy can often think the larger the project, the larger the check, the larger the impact. Let's think at that level. Let's think at the regional level and not spend time to think about that a thriving region requires thriving cities, and thriving cities thrive because of thriving neighborhoods, and thriving neighborhoods thrive because of neighbors and because of individuals. And so thinking about how to do work, how to think about impact from the other way around. How do you fund a project like this that tells 10 stories out of how many? I mean, how many there could have been in one section of one greenway of one city in our region, right? We need more of this. We need more of funders agreeing this is a great idea and getting out of the way and letting partners like the city of Detroit and the incredible team at GSD, Joe Louis Greenway Partnership, of course, Detroit Historical Society, do the work. So I'm thrilled we're part of this. I'm thrilled the Community Foundation's name is associated with it with nothing beyond cutting a check and getting out of the way. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about this story gathering.
All right. It's my pleasure to bring up our final speaker today, who is an amazing fighter for the community, a wonderful champion for her block, her neighborhood, her city, her family, and what the city of Detroit means in terms of our legacy. I've gotten an opportunity to know LaMonda Matthews and to just spend time with her, and I can say that her commitment and passion to this project is palpable. You can see it. And so as one of the story gatherers, I want to bring up LaMonda Matthews to share her experience and to talk about this project and what it means. LaMonda.
Thank y'all. Hey, y'all. Now, y'all know I'm not the talker, so bear with me. I'm not the usually one up here. I'm not as polished as our wonderful Miss Rue and our beautiful Miss Sherry. I'm not as polished as them, so bear with me, please. Today, as we unveil our beautiful neighborhood signs, we are doing more than just recounting history. We are reaffirming the soul of our neighborhood. This greenway has become a lifeline threading through the heart of our community, reviving not just the land, but the spirit of the hood. It stands as a testament to our pursuit of environmental health and social justice, realized right here where we live, a place that has seen its share of neglect and yet refuses to be forgotten. The stories we've collected and now displayed speak of resilience and the undying hope of the ones who came before us. I'm so very grateful that these narratives have been given a chance to be celebrated and remembered, for they teach us that despite our troubles, our community's heart beats strong. They remind us that our history is not just about where we have been, but a guiding light for where we must go. For me personally, working on this project and seeing the steady progress of the Joe Louis Greenway has sparked a journey of healing for me. While I've been wading through my own struggles, the Greenway has been a beacon of hope. Throughout this curious odyssey, strangers have become neighbors, neighbors have become friends, and friends have become family. Every moment spent, every story shared, every new friend has helped mend my heart. Even on those early morning days when Mr. Dave and his crew woke me up with their beep, 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 the heavy equipment starting up. Even then, I understood what this progress represented for our community, and it has helped restore pieces of my soul. Now seeing children play and families gather and neighbors reconnect along the trails, it brings me an indescribable joy. A reminder of why we pour our hearts and souls into this land, into this neighborhood, into this family. As we're gathered here, let's remember that our work here is far from over. We still got work to do, y'all. And the path we are on requires collaboration, compassion, and continued dedication. Understanding and celebrating our history is not just about looking back, but about building forward together. Let the voices of our past guide us as we strive toward a future where every resident not only survives, but thrives. We're not just unveiling signs today, y'all. We're igniting hope. Let this Greenway be a place where every step reminds us of our shared dreams and where every mile brings us closer to making those dreams a reality. Thank you for being a part of this moment, being a part of this journey. Let's continue to walk together toward a brighter, more connected future. Thank y'all.
What do you mean not polished? Woo! Well, listen, I just want to again thank you all for coming out here. LaMonda could not have expressed the emotion and the feeling behind this project any more beautifully, any more eloquently than what she did. I don't know about you, but the words that she said, I felt them. And if you have not been to this Greenway, if you have not been out here on a Friday evening or a Saturday afternoon, you have missed the healing that she is talking about. You have missed the healing of a community of different cultures and people coming together. So I invite you out here. This is your space. And just come and watch, and you will see what she is talking about. So as we wrap up, my distinguished speakers, if you can please grab your scissors, and I invite you all to come on and please gather behind them as we prepare to cut the ribbon to the Neighborhood Stories Project. Thank you.